Thank you. Okay, so what are overloads? What is burnout? That's what I'm going to be talking about during this, why they occur. And stimming, basically, I'm going to be introducing it as an alternate form of behaviour, and why really you need to be accepting it in your workplaces if you want neurodivergent people there. Because one of the greatest things about these conferences is the acceptance often that is fostered here. It's really rare. And I said to my mum, whenever we leave these safe spaces, you go really low, because you have to wait until the next time when you can feel safe and you can feel openly autistic or openly neurodivergent. But accepting it, we are very, very still far behind where we need to be. And to see people wanting autistic innovation, creation, that attention to detail, the way that we focus, our loyalty, that output, if you want all of that, and if you're putting all of those down, those key things down as things that you want in an employee, you also need to be looking at their welfare. Because you cannot have all of those wonderful gifts that come so naturally, they really do, if you're neurodivergent, but often we don't feel like they're gifts. So to be neurodivergent, brain diversity, is ADHD, autism, sensory processing, bipolar, OCD, schizophrenia, learning disabilities. That's neurodiversity. Brain diversity, the concept that there are multiple different ways of learning and sensing and being. I'm autistic and ADHD and sensory sensitive. And I also have a disability, so it's intersectional. And I burn out and overload a lot. And for so long, it's just been, it's the behaviour. It's the challenging behaviour. It's this disruption. It's this opposition. It's this laziness, yeah? Those were the deficits, that's the blaming that I have. And I wanted, before you can defend us, I wanted to show you what we're up against. So trigger warnings for this. I'm so sorry to have to say some of these things, but I get this every week. Because to be an openly autistic advocate, or an openly neurodivergent advocate, as many of my peers are, we receive hate speech. This is from an employee, and this is what he said when he's been recently seeing autistic people. We've been asking basically, can we please join in? Can you please employ us? This is his response. Call me ableist, I don't care. I cannot have employees that shake wildly, cannot hold eye contact, or have a confident conversation with a customer, or cry, or throw a temper tantrum at the drop of a hat, period. When I was growing up, when there was a kid with autism, we called them stupid. We called them retarded. We beat them up, and guess what? It magically cured their autism. Because back then, parents understood that when you get your kids bullied, you fix them until it stops. This was posted yesterday. And I did a speech in San Francisco asking Twitter and Adidas and Visa, please, can you recognise the autistic innovation? Because guess what? It's already there, Silicon Valley. It's full of us. It's full of us. So I'm asking for people to defend us and to understand us, because what we also have is research coming out and saying these autistic people, I'll focus on the autistics because that's what I am, they are perceiving everything as a threat. Their brains are coded wrong. But we've got the answer. It's conversion therapy. We're going to put them through pain simulations to desensitize it. Yeah, the homosexual community have been through this. And the neurodivergent community are also having parallels. And what I want you to know is that when you employ us, you will get all of those wonderful things that you seek. You'll get innovation. You will get ideas, wonderful, wacky ideas that no one ever thought of, because literally you just need a different brain sometimes to see it and to stimulate differently and go, hey, look, that could be a route that no one thought of.
Sorry, my throat just cut out. That happens when I'm nervous. I'm very, very nervous. Overloads. They happen for loads of different reasons within the neurodivergent and autistic community. I'm going to focus on autistic again. The intersectionality. If I'm having an overload at my desk, I'm also your whiz kid. I create all your code. So without me, you're nothing. So if I'm like at my desk, I'm like la, 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 in between work jobs, kind of regulating, stimulating, and I'll talk about stimming more in a moment. It may be for some of these different reasons. The autistic community, our health. We have epileptics, we have muscle atrophy, we have Ehlers-Danlos loss syndrome, it's joints dislocating, coming out of place. So, not all of us, but some of us will have complex medical health needs. So you may have disabled autistics or disabled neurodivergent. You could have neurodivergence with communication issues, so tics, Tourette's, non-verbal, speech apraxic, may talk through a machine instead. You may have autistics with PTSD, that's trauma, with anxiety, with depression. Well, most of the UK is depressed anyway, so any adaptations that you make for us, it will benefit the rest of your workforce. Welfare is important. Remember I said if you're not putting welfare on the top, you're going to lose us. Welfare is things like burnout, exhaustion, sensory overload, because our welfare will be different from the neurotypical person who simply doesn't have those things. So I need to change my hand and wipe the sweat. Here, it's part of my nervous system. I have it's a heart thing. I'm not going to go into it, it's boring. It's my heart, okay? So, hidden things that you may not see, invisible disabilities, if you make the adaptations, and this is the really cool part, the environment sometimes makes us burn out. The best thing about that is you can adapt it. So, structure, policy, attitudes, culture, noise, even the commute to work. What is going on with your employee? Do you value them enough actually to try and think they're struggling, or do you know what, they're too disruptive? It's your choice, it's your prerogative. Are we as a community, are we too disruptive? Or do you have internal bias that is unchecked? Or it could go away with education, and you're not even aware of it. I'm guilty of it, and I'm autistic. Yeah? Everyone can have it. But with internal bias, there's a difference between not knowing and between that person before, which is just normophobia. Normophobia is a complete intolerance to the need to regulate. And I sat here on stage with this around my wrist and this in my hand. If I went into school today as an 8-year-old kid, I would have these immediately confiscated off me. And if I refused, I could be disciplined, sent out of the class, or just be called a disruption or oppositional. Because the needs of autistics are not recognised as basic human rights needs. They're not even recognised. So when I ask you to make adaptations in terms of your attitudes and your culture, it's to be accepting. So I am on this stage with these in my hand because I'm nervous and I'm in pain. And this tactile input for me is great. Yeah? I get this. And I get this squish because if I'm not doing it, do you know what I'm doing? I'll just tear off the skin around my fingers like I have since I was 8 years old. And one second, you need to look at my notes. Oh yeah, I put, they blame it on us, how dare they? How dare they? How dare people like the employer blame the movements and regulation as something to be lazy and disruptive, and it can be kicked and cured out of us. That is a narrative that is destroying this community, and it's why I need employers to defend us, because if 40% of millionaires are neurodivergent, that's amazing. But I've been saying to my mum and dad that they're really fed up with me going on and on about it. We need those in positions of power and authority to wake up, and this is the scary part, to come out as neurodivergent and to pledge, I'm going to ensure that that person or that kid Well, that employee never has to go through what I did, never has to consider maybe taking their life, never has to consider X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to go down the dark route, it is dark. It's about defending us now, not just creating programs to include us and integrate us. It's about stepping up and speaking out for your employees. And one moment, I'm almost done. So stimming dead quick. Stimming as an autistic person. How long have I got left dead quick? Oh, fantastic. Oh, I can relax a bit now. I can relax. Just 1 second. I just have a second. Okay, thank you so much. Okay. So stimming is this. It's literally what I'm like. You know, what do you think that is? Why think so many people do it? It's a release, it's a tactile release unconsciously. Some way you'll be pulling it in. Most will do this. This is a stim. A lot of people know and will relate to. It doesn't mean you're autistic or neurodivergent. No panic. No panic. Some of you are totally going to realise you're neurodivergent by the end of this, by the way, you will. And then you're going to panic. But this is a very common stim. I actually don't do this. I don't do this stim. Yeah, I stim a lot. My stims are this. Are you ready? I can do this on mum's here. That's going to look so strange, like I gave birth. Anyway, so mine's like, hi, Mum, how you doing? How you doing, Mum? How you doing? Yeah? And I'm always support with it all the time. I'm 32. I rock in and out, as I talk about things, side to side. And that is my unconscious stim. And I become conscious after a little bit. So I often will flap and shake and rock and hum. But in the workplace, that all has to stop. And as an autistic person, I have learned to repress it. Which means I go into the workplace like this. Or I go in and it's like this. Most people pick their nails. I've picked the skin red ball. Like it's scarred. And then when that wasn't enough, I went home onto my feet. And I used to go to the work toilet cubicle with tweezers to excessively pluck hairs. So I wasn't doing this at the desk. It's called regulation. Think about, okay, so most non-autistic people or people with sensory processing issues are here. Automatically, you are lucky, I tell you now. I know you are. Because we are here. And we stimulate, move to balance. We are trying to get there. So we go from hypo, which is undersensitive, which is I need to move, I need to seek, I need to touch, I need to pluck and squeeze and grab, and that's where the self-harm can come into it, yeah? And then you have the hypersensitive, which is don't you touch me. And it's because if you think about a sensory quota going up and down, one day it's like a balloon, it's too much, and if you touch it, it will pop, it will overload. That's how autistic people can be. We can swing. And we stim to emotionally regulate and to sensory regulate. Sensory is to block out the lights and the noise and the sound and tactile, yeah? That's why we do it. So when I say that you need to make accommodations for stimming and really check your attitude and your cultural biases, it's because in the next 5 to 10 years, it will just be recognised as neurophobic. Because what I've just explained to you is that it's a neurological way of coping and being. And without it, we cannot function. I'm an autistic person that has a mask. My little boy, who's 7, he cannot mask. And for me, it's wonderful and it's beautiful because he's authentically autistic. But boy, does it make him vulnerable to sit there like this. Yeah? And I know what he's doing. He's literally doing like, logo movies when they go, you can see it. You see it all. My son can't speak much either. So for a long time, people see it and they pathologise the behaviour. They think, deficit, oh, poor thing, he can't. But give my son a piece of paper, adapt. Stop trying to get him to talk the language that he can't talk. Stop trying to get him to make eye contact when you know it's painful for him to do so or he finds it too intense. Stop trying. Oh, another reason he's not giving you eye contact, by the way, and it's why I don't do it too, is because if I look away, I can just bring up my memory bank. It's Sherlock does the mind palace thing. I'm not saying I'm like him, but you bring up the visual bank and you can walk around it in places, and I don't know, I hate it because then sometimes you're in a different place. You're disassociating by after, and that is a gift, but imagine how traumatic that can also be if you can access memories with that clarity. So when you bring autistic innovation into your workplace, stimulate it. Create not only the space within your attitude and your culture, but I'm asking for physical space. I'm asking for, at the desk, allowing me to have tactile or sensory equipment or things that help me regulate, things that help. When Sarah gets a little bit teary, a little bit emotional, she's got to get squishy, she's got to squish it. It doesn't make any sense to me. But now she can get on with the day instead of having to go home and having a whole week off. Because she got really ashamed because she had a whole blowout at the office. So that's how it works as well. But also, I think we have it here, a quiet meditation space. Now this is where people start to panic. It's like, oh, the money is going to cost money. Hang on, maybe. But I will literally help you, and I've said this before, I will help you find a room cupboard and clear it out. Because we haven't even had the goddamn corner, and believe me, we will be grateful for a spare room at this point. We will. So look at the infrastructure, look at the space, look at what you already have, and look at what you can offer. Do you know that a lot of autistics like to ground? Most people, when they're in trauma, or when they're mourning, and when they've just found out when someone's died, what do they do? What do you imagine them really doing? For me, I imagine they go to the floor. They floor themselves. It's a safety mechanism. You literally start to go. Because the fight-flight system's gone, your blood pressure has changed so quickly, your head goes, so you ground. Autistics, when they're emotionally stressed, will do the same. So beanbags, ground. You are inviting a stigmatized community into your workforce because you believe in them. Because you are going to be at the forefront of this revolution of change. But you need to become a little bit autistic yourselves. And that means really consulting with us, talking with us, and starting from there. Thank you so much. I can take some questions.